SLU doesn't play anybody tough.
It really became like an unholy trio.
You called Karl Malone
the mailman. He always delivers. And I go, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
If not for him, you might not have kept your job for 40 years.
He just looked at me and he goes, what did you say?
Do you wish it was less years?
What, do you know something I don't? It's the most difficult question I've ever been asked.
Welcome to the Pat Imig Sports Network, broadcasting from Imig AI Studios in St. Louis, Missouri. Now, your host, Pat Imig.
It's sports. It's the Pat Imig Sports Network, and we are on location in St. Louis at Vito's Pizzeria and Restaurante on Wendell Boulevard. And today our special guest, recent St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame inductee, 5-time Missouri Broadcaster of the Year.
You got a good memory.
Also, the voice of the St. Louis Billikens, the top 25 St. Louis Billikens, Bob Ramsey. Bob, it's great to have you here. Thanks for joining us.
We've known each other a long time. I always love to hang. You're a great follow on social media. This is fun.
One of the few people that would say that, actually. Yeah, you seem to. We've always gotten each other's sarcasm.
I think so. I think so. That's right.
So, this year's Billikens team, Josh Schertz takes over last year.
Yeah.
How surprised are you by what we've seen thus far from year one to year two for the SLU Billikens?
Well, I knew it would be a good team. I've been going to practice since it started in June, and I knew the team would be good. I didn't know how good. I didn't know if it could achieve great, and I don't know that we're there yet. You know, there's still a couple more chapters to be written about this season, but this team though has a chance to be a great team. So your question, how did I think it would that next year would be? And I thought it would be better. I just didn't know it would be a team that's got a chance to win 30 games.
Without NIL, this roster doesn't exist in its form. What is your take on NIL for college hoops in general, for college sports? I mean, I've always been a fan of the idea that if you're making money for the universities as an athlete and people are paying to see you should get paid. Beyond that, I don't really know the ins and outs of the details, but if you were like in charge of making decisions for that, would you keep it as is? Would you make some regulations, some changes? How do you feel about all that?
So the only way to really look at it is if President Trump made me the sports czar of America.
He might.
He might. It's not out of the realm. What I would do first is try and get as many objective insiders, and that's really hard to find because everybody's got their own angle, right? Whether you're a Power 4 AD, whether you're a mid-major, everybody doesn't want their ox being gored, and they want their piece of the pie. But I try and come together and say, okay, we're not going to leave this room till we come up with a solution, because I'm like you. Too much money was being made with not enough of it filtering down to the people who were making it. So that had to change. But the NCAA has always been mortally afraid of lawsuits. And let's face it, if you're allowed,
who isn't?
If you don't do anything wrong,
right.
If you're not doing anything wrong, you have nothing to worry about. So when you look at it, they had a reason to be afraid, because you're supposed to be a student athlete, right? Well, you can't restrict students moving. If you're going to UMSL and you want to transfer to SLU or SEMO or Mizzou, you just do it, right? Well, how can you restrict trade? You can't. You don't have those the exclusivity granted by the Supreme Court in the United States government. So you have to, and so, oh boy, we better let it go because we'll get sued and we'll lose. And they're right, they would lose. So they need some trade exemptions in a way to kind of corral it. But you don't want the pendulum to swing all the way back, and I don't think it can.
I don't think it can at this point.
No,
yeah.
But you got to find a way to regulate it legally and to prevent those kind of lawsuits so that the game can function.
Let's go back to when Josh Schertz was hired. Comes from Indiana State. When that happened, what was your thoughts? Just like from what you knew about him and where the state of basketball was for SLU, because we had just gotten done with the Travis Ford era that didn't go as well as people had hoped. So what was like your reaction when he became the head coach?
elated, delighted, through the roof. He was clearly the best coach available, and number 2 wasn't close, in my opinion. And so when I heard some rumblings that was a possibility, I said, okay, keep our fingers crossed. Coach put himself a little bit behind the 8 ball by getting deep into March, by going to the NIT finals before he could really get out and get recruiting. And that showed in the first year. A good team, but limited with talent, limited with healthy personnel, that sort of thing. But one step backward, though. Travis Ford was a hell of a coach and did a really good job, but was the unluckiest coach of all time. Every single year, something happened beyond his control. So I just wanted to be fair.
That's something that you have the better insight than anybody.
For this first year with the sex scandal and losing players, and then COVID comes along, and then his best player blows out his knee. Then he comes back and wasn't the same. I mean, it was just one thing after another. So I don't ever want to. I can't. And not that you were saying it. Well, Travis. I go, wait a minute. Travis Ford is a really good coach. So anyway, but
no, that's good. We want to hear the truth.
Yeah, but Josh Schertz is marvelous. He's really special.
So there's something about his personality. I remember when he was a guest on the Cardinals broadcast, because it's like Billiken night. It's towards the end of the season, and I had no idea who he was.
Mm-hmm.
No idea where he came from. And I just remember thinking, this guy's like really like cool, like down to earth, which is what I think today's athletes need, compared to the Bobby Knights of 40 years ago, right? So his personality was just like, from the get-go, I was like, all right, I'm intrigued by this guy. So then he brings over some talent along with him. What is your take on Robbie? Because he is, a lot of people think he's one of the top players in college basketball. Some people think he could be in the NBA. You've seen it firsthand. So what's your thought?
Probably the smartest player I've ever been around. Probably the smartest. He's got the vision of a point guard. He's got great hands. Obviously, he can shoot it. Everybody can see that. But his vision and his willingness to make his teammates better is that combination of attributes. We've never had a guy like that, ever. Certainly at that position.
So, what can he work on? Do you see NBA in his future? Is he a European League player?
I don't know if he's athletic enough to be in the league. I would say that would be up to him. Does he want to transform his body and that sort of thing? And even so, even if he did get leaner and stronger, is it still good enough for the NBA? I don't know. I'm not an NBA. I'm not a scout. I'm not good at predicting who's going to be in or out or great in the NBA. My track record is not very good on those kind of predictions. I would say Robbie, though, is smart enough that he can probably do just about anything he wants to do, anything he puts his mind to.
The Billikens this year, there's a lot like the top teams in college basketball, the top 10 teams, top 15 teams, where they've got 7 to 8 guys who can at any point score double digits in a game. So how does the coach, there's only 40 minutes in a game if you're not going to overtime, so how does Schertz do what he does to make sure that he's not only playing the right guys at the right time, but also getting the most out of them while they're there? Because you can't play everybody. It's not like 30 years ago where you just had your starting 5 and that was it, right? I mean, college basketball's changed quite a bit.
Yeah.
So what's your take on that?
Well, it started with recruiting last spring and getting players to accept the buy-in, accept this is the way we're going to play. Can you do it? Are you the kind of individual that can play less minutes and still be really productive in the team concept? And Coach would tell you he was 6 for 6 in getting guys to accept that buy-in. And so it started there. Then when practice started in June, then you started to work on it and see how it was going to develop. And there have been subtle points of evolution even as the season has gone on. But by and large, the plan has gone pretty much according to how he wanted it to go.
It's a good sign.
But the perfect thing, The perfect example is Robbie, who accepted playing as much as 10 minutes less a game and being better. More is, you play less and produce more. He leads the country centers and assists. He leads the team in scoring. Now, he averaged 17 last year. He's averaging 13 this year. You say, well, he's having a down year. No, he's having a much better year than last year.
Yeah, I think he's averaging, about 28 minutes a game? Did I read that right?
It's climbing a little bit. I think he had close to 30 minutes the other night, and that's been pretty high. And I think here down the stretch, he'll probably play in the upper 20s, close to 30. But yeah, around 25 minutes a game.
So, hypothetical, March Madness, do you see him playing more than that, or do you think that they just ride with the same strategy as far as minutes played for Robbie and anybody else on the roster?
I think game situations could dictate that. For instance, the other night, the Billikens had a double-digit lead. It got cut to, I think, 2. Robbie had come out where he had 4 fouls, and it was time for him to get that last breather before the stretch. Ideally, he would have come back after the 4-minute timeout, but it was just under 5, and the lead had been cut down, and they put him right back in. And depending on the situation, we either call him the cooler or the closer, because he comes in and settles things down, and he absolutely did. Then he went on another, multiple point riff, just Robbie stuff, going to the rim, stepping back, trail threes, and put it away, and that's what he does.
Amari McCottry was listed recently in an ESPN article as a breakout player, like a top 25 breakout player. You've got guys who can shoot threes. You've got your instant Sharma.
Mm-hmm.
So if the Billikens are in a crunch time game, and again, game situations can dictate it, like you said, but if you've got one shot that you need made, and it needs to be a 3, is there that go-to guy? Is it Trey Green, or is it just a matter of whatever the play is drawn up? And
yeah, if you know what you need, that's the thing. These guys are playing jazz music. In that, let's see where it takes us. We're playing jazz, but of the guys that you could see hitting a big shot late, it'd be Robbie, it'd be Sharma, it'd be Trey Green. But Kellen Thames won a game against Santa Clara in the Acrisure Classic in Palm Springs in November with a drive to the basket and a reverse layup. So that's the thing. You've got multiple ways to go. You set up a play, but what if it's covered? Okay, we give up. No, we don't give up. We find a way to get to the basket or get a guy open for a shot.
What do you say to pessimists who would argue that SLU doesn't play anybody tough?
Here's the hypocrisy of that. Well, it's either hypocritical or lazy or both. And that is, how can you blame somebody for not playing you when you won't play them? And it's a fact at this point. And anybody who denies it is either taking a position or burying their head in the sand. And that is, the Big Four, the top 4 conferences have colluded not to play mid-major teams. And so then we're colluding, we're not going to play you, yet we're going to criticize you for not playing us. What are you supposed to do?
Right.
Now, Rick Majerus famously said, we'll play anybody anywhere. But what he meant to say was, on a fair and equitable basis. You can't go play UCLA, Kansas, Florida, Ohio State, and UConn all on the road. I mean, that's silly. But none of those teams will come play you at your place if you're any good at all. So they won't do it. So
interesting.
In a perfect world, could you get 2 or 3 really good teams? And one year maybe I go to UCLA. Next year they come to us. The same year we may go to, and we have, to their credit, we've played Kansas several times over the years. So that's, I don't want to lump them in, but the game has changed, and the leagues are now controlling what is being done. But the best you could do, if you did a couple of those on a road, got a couple at home, maybe you'd do a 2-for-1 if it was a really good game and you felt like you were ready for it. Let's use a Michigan State, for instance.
Okay.
We'll go there, you come to our place next year, and then the third game we'll go back to your place. And so those are the kinds of things that do it. But to suggest that a legit mid-major has to play all their games on the road to be legit, that's balderdash.
It's balderdash, especially for a team. You mentioned this when you walked in. SLU hasn't lost at home since last year?
Yeah.
Wow. So the Chaffetz Arena effect has been real this year.
Well, and it's grown. This is the show me state. St. Louis is neck deep in that show me first. And even that has changed. So the season started. It was a good year last year, a whole new team, people wanted to see. I wish we would have come out right out of the gate with full houses. Probably not reasonable. But then people saw it. Typically at SLU, the crowds pick up around Christmas time. And they did again this year. And then it's kind of, Friday and Saturday night at Chaffetz has kind of been the place to be, and including here at Vito's right across the street. And so that's come along.
Great Sicilian pie.
No doubt about it. And then the other part of that, though, is I think, and there are exceptions, but over my 40 years, typically I think we have, even on our good crowds, are more reactive. But what I've seen this year more than ever before is consistent proactive crowds, getting behind the team when the chips are down and doing those sorts of things. And it's made it a really electric atmosphere in the building, led by the student section.
Noted. That's Bob Ramsey, 40 years calling the St. Louis Billikens. What does that make you, when you hear 40 years, how does that make you feel? Do you wish it was less years just because it was more time that you still had to call, or what?
What, do you know something I don't?
I know, I'm being honest.
It seems unreal. It seems like I've been there a little while, and then I think back how long ago it was with Grauer, Bonner, Gray, and Douglas back in the 80s and getting the first opportunity. So in many ways it seems really unreal. And I wish I'd had everything on videotape, because some of it just kind of goes together and you kind of forget all these games. Our terrific SID, Brian Kunderman, did a little deep dive into numbers. You and I like stats. And he determined that nobody in history has seen more Billiken games than me.
That makes sense.
Now, that's weird. That doesn't seem realistic.
When you started with the Billikens, we'll go back into the Bob Ramsey history here for a few minutes. Rich Grauer, I believe, was the one who helped you get your job. Is that correct?
Without question.
Okay, so just what's the backstory on that?
So, right out of Lindenwood University, looking for jobs, having to create my own jobs, ended up over a series of meetings, ended up doing DeSmet High School, football and basketball. Well, as you remember, DeSmet was really good. They're always really good. But Rich Grauer was the coach there. I came in right after Steve Stepanovich.
Okay.
But Frank Cusimano was there. That's where I first met Frank. And we did those games. It was great. Fast forward 7-8 years later, I got the job at Channel 11. But when I was living in Louisiana in the interim, I got hooked on college basketball. And so I had just kind of casually mentioned covering, doing sports stories, covering the Billikens, because I could see that Grauer had something going there. And I just casually mentioned, if this job opens up, I'd really like to apply for it. And okay. The very next year, Charlie Slows, who people don't remember, went on to be the baseball guy with Tampa and with Washington NBA basketball. And anyway, he's a great broadcaster. That opened up. They offered me the job, and certainly Rich Grauer and the guy who actually did the hiring, Jim Bakken, former football Cardinals great, was the AD then, and that's how it got started.
So if you want it, you got to ask for it.
Yeah. I said, hey, I'm around. I'd love to do it. And at the time, because the program had fallen in real disarray 5-6 years earlier, Grauer saved the program, but it was just starting to build momentum. And I kind of had seen with who they had, Pee Wee Leonard, and then Jim Roeder and Gray and Douglas, and then they were recruiting Anthony Bonner. And I go, okay, this thing's really getting going. And I was able to get in at the right time.
So after the Grauer era, we get Charlie Spoonhour. Just take us back to that era, because that was for me as a kid. That was like the
Yeah.
first. I remember Anthony Bonner, but it was Spoonball that I really was like just hardcore into. I still remember the roster: Claggett, Dobbs, you name it. How did Spoonhour take what Grauer started and then take it to the next level? What do you remember about that?
Well, it was a little bit of a challenge, and the first thing they had to do was convince Highmark and Claggett to stay on board because
So they were Grauer guys.
they were Grauer guys.
Okay.
And coaches from all over the country are looking to poach because they knew the guy had been fired and that
Sure.
sort of thing. So that was the first move by Spoon to keep those guys. Then he got Donnie Dobbs out of JUCO, an undersized, kind of a mini Charles Barkley. And then he was able to get H. Waldman, the point guard, to transfer from UNLV. And that's how the alchemy all kind of came together, and they got that baby rolling pretty good.
So Spoonball era was a fun time to be a fan for sure, and I believe also just from doing a little research, Charlie Spoonhour, if not for him, you might not have kept your job for 40 years. Is that right?
Well, you've been in the business a long time, and you know when rights holders change, right? Rights holders change. Typically, if you were part of the previous thing and you don't work for the new thing, there are no guarantees that you're going to move. Well, I don't care if it's baseball, football, it doesn't matter.
Right.
It's not unusual. It's not a guarantee, but it's not unusual that happens. Well, here in this market, a lot of different stations. Billikens have been on many over the years, 2 different times in his tenure. And I got it from multiple sources in meetings. Well, we're going to go with our guy, blah, blah, blah. And Spoon, 2 different times, said, well, if Rammer's not doing the games, we're not making the move. Couple things there.
That's clout and loyalty.
Clout and loyalty. For the head coach to have the clout to do that and the loyalty to say, yeah, whoever does the games, I don't care. Instead, he says, no, this is our guy. I'm really fortunate to have that close relationship with Spoon.
You had mentioned Rick Majerus earlier.
Yeah.
Obviously a larger-than-life character, and no pun intended.
Yeah.
Take us back to that era, just as far as how do you remember that all developing?
Before I get to that, it's really interesting to me, and I get close to all these guys. I don't ever want to see anybody fired.
Right.
But isn't it interesting, after each firing, the next coach is taking it up a level. You've got Grauer to Spoon, who got to the NCAA tournament. You had Brad Soderberg, who's a terrific coach and had a long career at Lindenwood and then as an assistant at Virginia. Great coach. They fire him. Majerus takes it up a level. It hit the pits with Jim Cruz after he was the national coach of the year. Then things went downhill. You fire him. You bring in Travis Ford. 2019, you go back to the NCAA tournament. Ultimately, have to fire him, and now you got Josh Schertz. It's really been an amazing trend in that regard. Now, to Majerus specifically, there was a lot of palace intrigue with all that going on, and it was one of those, and I know the boosters are always involved behind the scenes because money is what drives everything, right? But I think more than ever before, the university was able to coalesce, and in particular with Dr. Chaffetz, coalesce the boosters and the power brokers to get behind this, to say, if we get Rick Majerus, this is what it's going to take. This is how we have to do it. And they were able to pull that group together with often and anywhere. You get a bunch of rich guys together to get them all on the same page on a particular topic. That's difficult to do. And they were able to do it and bring Majerus in.
This is where you get to be selfish, Bob. Like any favorite calls that you've had from any of these eras? Is it like when you think back to this last 40 years? Do you have favorite?
That's really hard. I would say when SLU beat number 2 Louisville, that was really fun, and part of it was because my partner Earl lost.
We actually have that audio clip, so we'll sprinkle
he goes
it in.
apoplectic.
It almost sounds like he's yes, he can't even speak words. He's just so excited.
It was so much fun.
3, 2, 1 from 30 feet. He missed. The Billikens win. The Billikens win. The Billikens beat number 2 Louisville.
Is he coming? By the way, I heard that you don't go anywhere without him.
He's got the car running, so I can get to work right after this.
Good.
what are some of the other favorite ones? Oh, here's one that I screwed up, but nobody knows I screwed up. 2019, when the Bills win the tournament, the Atlantic 10 tournament championship, it looked like it was kind of slipping away, and they had a chance to win it at the buzzer, and it didn't go in. I said, it didn't go in, Billikens rebound, and there's a pause. I could probably lie and say I wanted that pause for effect, to
build drama,
hear the crowd and all that stuff. No, because my brain was going negative that this guy got an open look to hit it, and instead it took me a couple of beats to realize, my God, we just won the A10 tournament and we're going to the big dance. And I was nonplussed for a moment before I picked it back up. So that's one that I remember as I was really rocked back on my heels that we actually won the thing. And then no particular call, but Lorenzo Romar and that 4 games in 4 days miracle in Memphis thing, beating Cincinnati.
The opponents that the Billikens have had over the years. So, like, you mentioned Cincinnati, and that made me think Bob Huggins.
Yeah.
Those were always just clashes. So,
unbelievable.
In addition to Huggins, is there, like, who are a couple other coaches, whether it's present or in the last 40 years, where you saw them on the schedule for the Billikens and you were like, this is going to be great because this guy's, for whatever reason, either entertaining or just a great coach?
You know who was the thorn in the side of Rich Grauer and the Billikens at Xavier? Pete Gillen. You'll hear him now doing a lot of basketball analysis on national games. Pete was terrific, and the Bills just couldn't get over the hump over Xavier. That was in the old MCC. And
wow.
because the Bills had, in my view, tournament caliber teams, but they just couldn't win the conference tournament. And then you mentioned Bob Huggins and Spoon. I liken them to Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday,
nice.
With Huggins as the Doc Holliday bad guy, but they were best friends, which it just didn't fit. Yet they were best friends and very competitive against each other, and that made those clashes, that added to the drama of it, because these two guys that socially were completely different people, but when they got together, they were best friends and they butted heads, and it really made it remarkable. And then at the same time, it really became like an unholy trio in the Great Midwest Conference. Kevin O'Neill, who was insane, was at Marquette. And though the three of them were running buddies. And so the stuff that would go on between them in games and after the games, it was really a fun, electric time.
MCC, Great Midwest, USA Conference, A10. You've outlasted all the conference changes.
Yeah, knock on wood. And then another one, Lorenzo Romar, one night thought that I won't even mention names, thought that the opposing coach was playing dirty, looking to take guys out physically, and had to be restrained after the game from going to fight a guy. So it's not all. It's not only the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Sometimes things get really heated. And by the way, Lorenzo Romar is maybe, when you talk about class, the classiest guy I've ever met. I put him in a league with somebody like Lou Brock and people that exude class in the way they carry themselves and the way they treat people. Lorenzo's one of my all-time favorite people.
Do you keep in touch with either former coaches or former players? Because you mentioned it, you do get really close to the guys and to the staff and the coaches. So after they graduate, or is there anybody you still keep in contact with? Fortunately,
I see Rich Grauer not infrequently, and he's still coach to me, Coach Grauer. I rarely call him Rich. Earl and I just saw Lorenzo Romar, who's now an assistant at Loyola Marymount, and we saw him, and it was Old Home Week, lots of hugs and laughs and pictures, and that was really great. And I will text every now and then. I still text Travis Ford all the time. Unfortunately, Charlie Spoonhour and Rick Majerus have passed away. Jim Cruz is a little bit of a recluse, so I haven't had a chance to keep up with Jim, who was really quite a gentleman as well. When I almost got thrown out of the game, I was mortified and thought that everybody would be mad at me, him and the AD and everybody. He just looked at me and he goes, "What did you say? This is still in the game." And I didn't say anything. He goes, I didn't hear anything. He just kind of laughed and walked away. Jim Cruz was really a special guy.
What do you got against referees?
You know what? I think it goes to my hillbilly DNA. You hate to be cheated. You can take a fair and square loss,
right,
but you hate to be cheated, even if they're not cheating you. The perception of it. That's how we hillbillies are.
We've got the clip of you with
yeah.
This is our broadcast.
Heisman.
Yeah.
The Heisman. Well, that was that game.
Hands it off, tipped away. Daniels goes into the backcourt and saves it and swings it, knocked away by Evans. Daniels gets it back. They're going to call a cheat foul on Evans. And I tell you what, it's the thing. I'm on the air right now. Stay away from me. Official tried to get into our broadcast. We won't have it.
No.
We're not going to have it. We're not going to have it here.
No.
So what was the name of the ref? Do you remember?
Bo Borowski.
Bo Borowski.
Bo Borowski, who, now the funny part about that story is, in my opinion, he realized he was wrong and just walked away. Point two is, it was right before the end of the season. We were in the NCAA tournament in San Jose. Bo was reffing in that pod. And so I go, you know what? We this is bad. This is bad blood. So it was pregame, not before or before a different game. I just walked out to center court. I had a credential. Walked, hey, Bo. And we shook hands. Now, what was really funny is neither one of us apologized, but we both said, yeah, let's move on.
Because you're guys. You guys don't apologize to each other.
As John Wayne said, it's a sign of weakness.
There you go. Before we get into your All-Billikens team.
Okay, which is the most difficult question I've ever been asked.
I know. That's why I sent it to you ahead of time.
I'm serious.
I knew if I asked you live, you would just...
I'd fold.
Yeah. Right after you... Let's go back to Lindenwood real quick. So So how did you get from Lindenwood? So for people that don't know, Bob went from Lindenwood to Louisiana Tech University, correct?
Basically true.
Where you called Karl Malone.
Yes.
And
third all-time leading scorer in the NBA.
Correct. So tell us the story about how they gave you the nickname that you were supposed to call him. And
so you know this story.
Yes, I've already heard the story, but I just want you to tell it.
Because it'd be easy for me to say, oh, I just knew this guy was going to be great, and the mailman, oh, that fits perfectly, and look at me. No, just the opposite. So in those days at Louisiana Tech, the broadcast came out of the sports information department. So we were part of a team in there. You know, the SID, assistant SID, grad students and workers. There's probably half a dozen people. And so many of you may know, because you don't know where it is, that Ruston is in the middle of nowhere, Ruston, Louisiana. And they knew that Malone was a special talent, but nobody would ever hear about him. We were in the Southland Conference. Nobody would ever hear of him. So we got to try and figure a way to market this guy, get him on the national stage. Had a couple meetings, throwing around names. Finally, it said, okay, this, that, and the other. And finally, let's do the mailman. He always delivers. And I go, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. I go, I'm not doing that. And the boss goes, they all went around the room. Everybody seemed to like it. And he goes, you're doing it tonight. I go, oh. And it caught on like that. Within a month, he was in Sports Illustrated, dressed in a mailman uniform, stuffing a basketball into a mailbox. And it just took off from there. So I can't claim I made it up, although I was in the group.
Sure.
Although I was the voice of dissent, I was in the group and the first to call him the mailman. So I'm going to live. I have to be honest about it.
Yeah, well, that's completely fair. I thought it was stupid, but I did my job, and then look what happened. I mean,
right.
It's one of those things. It's like, what are my options?
There weren't any. So there you go. No, it's a fun story. Carl's is great. We'll text every now and then on his birthday. Usually, he's gone back to Ruston and really been a key real estate developer there, and really made that town, kind of brought it up into the 21st century. He's done a marvelous job with his hometown.
Do you want to give us your top 5, or do you want to start with an honorable mention? Do you need 10?
Let's start with the top 5, because then you
Okay.
can help me trickle down, and those watching can kind of do their own list. I'm going to keep it a little open in that regard.
Okay.
So you have to have some rules here. Now, because if you don't, just look at the top 5 all-time scorers. Well, that's easy. We don't want that, right? So part of my issue when I talk about all-time teams, as you know, I'm a lineup nerd.
Sure.
So do you want your top 5 guys by position? Do you want your top 5 guys? If I had to win a game tonight, what would the top 5 be? So I've kind of put an amalgam of all those little rules together. Now, here's the other one that's going to take me off the hook a little bit.
Okay.
Because I know all these guys and I love them. I love these players and their parents and the coaches. So I got to be taken off the hook a little bit. Let's say that the guys that are in the NBA or played in the NBA, they're automatics. Is that fair?
Sure.
So you got Bonner, Anthony Bonner.
Okay.
You got Larry Hughes, and you got Jordan Goodwin, who's currently with the Phoenix Suns. So that's easy. So now 3 of my 5 are already done. So I got a power forward, I got a positionless guy who could play really any of the 5 positions, and I got one of the great defenders and a legit scorer all time in Jordan Goodwin. So now what does that team need? I need a shooter, at least one shooter, probably 2. So who are the best shooters? Do you go by career field goal percentage? Do you go by volume of 3-point shooting? Do you go, you knew I was going to go nerd on you,
Yes,
didn't you?
absolutely. That's why I did it.
So how do you do that? So here's another thing, except for one position, on all my all-time teams, no matter what the sport, I take out current players. I don't, because they still have part of their chapter to be written.
Sure.
Here's my one spot, though, is that Robbie Avila's career is basically done. Half a dozen more games, maybe. Oh, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 10 more. Maybe 10 more games. So
That'd be nice.
We know who he is. He's my center. He's the best center we've ever had, with apologies to Rob Lowe and Willie Reed and Ian Vayukas. And even Melvin Robinson, the Big Chill, all had good things to bring to the table, but Robbie's the best. So that helps me because I don't have a true point guard. Goodwin played a lot of point guard. Hughes played a lot of point guard. But I got a point center in Robbie, who's probably a better passer than all of them. So I don't necessarily have to get a true point guard on my team. Now I've got 4 guys. So really all I need is for you to say who's the best shooter of all time. So you got Roland Gray, who has the all-time, but he didn't shoot a high volume. You got Erwin Claggett. You got Scott Highmark. You got Kevin Lish. Now, Kevin Lish is interesting because he was a madman defensively. So am I thinking just shooter, or do I want to go, Justin Love, who was a great shooter, but also could get to the rim and dunk on you. Great athlete. Then you got Kwame Mitchell, who, with Majerus's team, who was a killer. And then you got the guy who leads, now he did play 100 years on the team, Gibson Jimerson, but had his the quickest release of anybody. So where do we go with that? I think I'm going to give the nod. To nostalgia and the Venice Menace, Erwin Claggett.
I like it.
So that gives me Robbie Avila, Anthony Bonner at the 5, Larry Hughes at the 3, Jay Good, ostensibly the point guard, and Erwin Claggett.
There it is, folks. What do you think? Do you have honorable mentions? Do you like the way Bob broke it down for all of us?
Now, if you wanted to take somebody else, as I said, other than Claggett, okay, you can make arguments for all those guys I named. Then, if you do want a second team, that's even harder. Because all the guys that didn't get all those shooters, and a guy that's kind of lost in history a little bit, Dwayne Evans, who was the 3-4 man for those great Majerus teams. What a great, great player. And if you're really building a team, you got to have Evans on there. So he is a lock for my second team, along with Lish and Love. And I'll let everybody else pick out the other 2.
That's Bob Ramsey, St. Louis University Billikens, the voice of the St. Louis University Billikens. 40 years. It's great to see you.
Thanks, Patrick. It's great to see you, buddy.
Thanks for coming up on the show. And we should probably do like a summer of '98 home run chase show sometime, because a lot of people don't know that you were on those calls too. So
yeah, I had a bunch of them. I was very, very lucky and had, even though it wasn't a winning team or a playoff team, it was great fun.
Follow us on YouTube. Get PISN. That's the Pat Imig Sports Network. Subscribe and follow, and we will see you guys next time. Thanks again to Bob Ramsey. Thanks to Vito's in Midtown. And if you're in St. Louis, or if you're traveling to St. Louis, make sure you come here for the Sicilian pie. Everything's scratch made. It's delicious. We want to thank everybody for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
comes the fun to the hole. Jam time. Jordan Goodman on the run. He comes down low. Jam time. Hargrove.
Bang, 2-on-2, full speed, Kellen, layup, missed it, jam time on the follow.
Then finds Q in the corner. Bang! Q ball. Green to the right wing. Green wants a quick pop three. Bang! The Trey. Sharma from the wing. Bang! Instant Sharma. Bang! Oh, baby! What a shot by Trey Green. Pass. Sharma, NBA range. Instant Sharma! You've got to be kidding me! That is the worst call I have ever seen. Oh, are you kidding me?
Thanks for watching the Pat Imig Sports Network, powered by Imig.ai. For exclusive sports content and clips you can't find anywhere else, follow along on social media at GetPissin'.
Every single night, from the tip off to the touchdown, I break it down. Sports talk royalty, I wear the crown. Dynasties rise, legacies never fall. Every win got a story, I tell it all. Last minute buzzer beaters, ice in the vein. Post game speeches and champagne rain. From the World Cup heat to the Super Bowl lights, calling plays in the zone. Open up your eyes, Imig Sports Network, dropping value like clockwork. If you really want insight, get it right. Watch the videos every single night. Pat Imig Sports Network, dropping value like clockwork. If you really want insight, get it right. Watch the videos every single night. Talking MVPs, yeah, I see the vision. Grinding for the chip, this is more than a mission. Trade talks, headlines, locker room vibes. Breaking news quicker than a 40-yard time. Got eyes on the court, hard in the ring. Every athlete's journey, I let that sing. Olympic gold to college ball pride. If it's clutch, I got it covered worldwide. Pat Imig Sports Network, dropping value like clockwork. If you really want insight, get it right. Watch the videos every single night. Pat Imig Sports Network, dropping value like clockwork. If you really want insight, get it right. Watch the videos every single night. Lights on, game on, no cap when the game's strong. Underdogs to the Hall of Fame, every win got a name. Pat Imig Sports Network, dropping value like clockwork. If you really want insight, get it right. Watch the videos every single night. Pat Imig Sports Network, dropping value like clockwork. If you really want insight, get it right. Watch the videos every single night.